Mrs. M. Priyadarshini, ME MBA, is doing PhD, is currently working as teaching fellow in the Department of IST, Anna University, Chennai. She completed a master's in software engineering from Anna University. She has about 10 years of experience in handling courses for UG and PG. She was serving as technical evangelist for corporate over 4 years in Java Enterprise Technologies, software engineering, databases, AWT, and design patterns. She is proficient in handling IT projects as well into concept development for enterprises. She is doing a research in the area of web services security. Her other areas of interest include software engineering, AWT, databases, enterprise technologies, and service-oriented architecture. She holds many journal publications and conference proceedings in her research area.
So, welcome to UGC lecture series in Computer Science part 23. So, in this session we are going to discuss about menus, creation of menus, why do we go in for layouts, what is layout manager, and then we are going to see about few layouts like flow layout and grid layout. So, first we will start with menus. In all the applications that we use today, we have menus like your file, your help menu and so on. So, whenever we try to create an applications, we cannot rely always on the controls, that is the available controls like your buttons, your text box, your label, all these controls, and then you navigate between the pages. So, very easy way of navigation between pages will be your menus. So, your menu can group things and then it will help you in order to have certain operations which comes under a particular category to be placed in a particular menu. So, I can have a menu and then I can have menu items, and based on the items that I choose, I can make my navigation between the frames or your window. So, we have already seen that window, your frame and your dialog. So, all these components could be switched between using your menus. So, I can use a particular menu in order to do a sequence of activities or sequence of navigations. So, you can see that as the name indicates, a menu consists of menu objects. So, I have a menu and then I have a list of menu objects. So, these menu objects comprises of menu item. So, I have a menu and then I have menu objects, and inside menu objects I have menu item. So, which can be selected by the user with a click of the mouse. So, only menu item object is the one which is going to decide upon what activity that you are going to do. So, menu item may be a string, checkbox, separator, menu, etc. So, I can, in the menu items, I can include a particular string. If I want, I can even include a checkbox. So, you would have seen, if I want to enable, so I want to include a toolbox. So, in your Word, Microsoft Word, you would have seen, if I want to include a picture toolbar, so I will go to my toolbar, right click it, and then I enable the checkbox. So, automatically that particular toolbar will get enabled, and you can see all the components on the toolbar. So, you can also include checkbox in your menu item. So, my menu item can be a string, it can be a checkbox, it can be a separator. So, if I want to group, so in the menu object I want to have various groups. So, in that case I can use separator in order to separate the groups also. So, the steps to add menus to any frame. So, first one is you need to create a menu bar with the help of method menu bar is equal to new menu bar. So, now I have a constructor in order to construct a menu bar. So, a menu bar is constructed initially. So, whenever I have a frame or whenever I have a window, what is difference between your frame and window? We have seen, we don't have your toolbox, your status bar and all in your window. So, whereas whenever I have a frame, so then my frame or my applet, I can keep on adding my menus. So, first I initially create a menu bar. So, that is my first step. Then you need to create a menu. So I need to create menu after I create a menu bar. So you can see that in your Microsoft Office you have file. So file can be new, open, save, save as, all these are options. So in this case file is your menu and then your new, open, save, all these options are menu items. So your menu bar is a bar which is attached on your particular window, that is your frame. So I am creating a new menu called file. Now the menu item options can be added to the menu from top to bottom. So here you can see that m.add, m is nothing but the menu. In the menu I am adding a new menu item called open. Again I can even add a checkbox menu item. So here I have directly given the construction process of the menu item and the checkbox menu item. Instead of this, even what I can do is I can create a menu item m1 is equal to new menu item and then I can add using m1. Here directly the object is constructed and passed on, added, whereas you can also create it as a separate object and then you can later add it on using the object name. So now you can add the menu to the menu bar from left to right using your menu bar dot add. So whenever I add items in the menu, so I may have n number of menus in one menu bar. So I have a one menu bar. In one menu bar I am adding many menus. Inside your menus you have menu item. So whenever I add the menu item, it will be added from top to bottom. Whenever I try to add menus in your menu bar, so in that case from left to right. So after I add the menu items on the menu and menus on your menu bar, then I need to add this menu or associate this menu to a particular frame. So in frame we have a method called set menu bar. So using the set menu bar method of the frame, just you can add the menu bar that you have constructed now. So finally you need to add the menu bar to the frame by calling the set menu bar method. So set menu bar of, this is my object of menu bar. So you can see a sample program here. So we have java.awt.star. So inside your AWT package we have this menu item, your menu bar, all these classes, and then if you want to handle the events, then event handler you can use. So here class menu demo extends your frame. So now I am constructing a frame. So I am declaring a menu bar and then I am declaring a menu and then I am declaring a list of menu items. So now constructor of my frame. So I here menu demo as a frame is of type frame because your base class is frame and then I am trying to create a new frame called menu demo. So base class methods could be called from your derived class. So you can see that your public menu demo parameter that is passed is a string. So this is your base class constructor. So what is your base class? Your base class is frame. So I am calling frames constructor. So now a frame will be constructed with this particular title, whatever I pass here as a parameter. In my code, whenever I try to create an instance of this frame, the parameter what I pass, the title what I pass will be set to the frame, that is your base class. So here you can see that menu bar object is created. Then I am trying to create a new menu. The name of the menu is file. And then I am trying to create the menu items. So I am creating new, open, save, save as and exit. So all menu items are created, menu is created and menu bar is created. So all these are available in the constructor of the particular frame. So now after I construct them, I am trying to add. So first I am trying to, so FE is nothing but your menu. So in the menu I am adding the menu items. So I am adding first item, second item, then I am adding a separator. So I will have a separator, then I add two more elements, then a separator and then another element. So now I will have two elements separator, and one element. So after I add all the elements on menu called file, so now MR is my menu bar. So in the menu bar I am adding that particular menu. Here I have only one menu in the entire menu bar. I have added only one menu. If I want to add further menus, I have to create the menus again. So inside my menu, I have lot of menu items. So you can see set menu bar, your menu bar instance that you have created. So this set menu bar is inside your constructor, and this class which you are dealing with is of type frame. So inside your frame you have all these methods. One is set menu bar, your set size, set visible, all these. So again I am setting the size of it, and then I call show method that is available in the frame. So now public static void main, I am creating a new frame. So from this program I am trying to create a new menu demo. So you can see here menus demo. So your file, so this is your menu bar, this is your menu, and this is your menu item. So I have added 2 items, then a separator, 2 items, a separator, and my final element. So this is how your menu is attached to a frame. And now it's ready, so that I can, for each of the menu items I keep on writing the event handling mechanism. So next we'll move on to layouts. What is a layout first? So since the component class defines set size method, set location method, all the components can be sized and positioned with those methods. So what do you mean by component? I need not tell. So component, like your button, your text area, your text field, all these are components which could be placed on some containers. So this component class has methods in order to set the size and location of the component. So in my screen, in my console, I can place my components wherever I like. So I have a component, I have a container on which I am trying to place the component. So in that case, I can set the size of the particular component and the location of the component using these methods. So the parameters provided to those methods are defined in terms of pixels. So whenever I give some value, so I give 20, so it means the value is pixels. So 20 pixels, it's not a normal character value. So this is the pixel value. So you can see here, pixel sizes may be different depending on the platform. So the use of these methods tend to produce GUI which will not display properly on all platforms. So for example, you can consider that I have created a particular frame in one particular platform. In that case, the pixel whatever I have set in order to give the size as well as the location, so that will be for that particular platform. If I am going to change the platform, so I have constructed my GUI based on one particular platform. If I am going to use that in another platform, you know that Java is platform independent. So in that case, I can even run that on other platforms as well. So when even we have seen that AWT could also be run on various platforms because it is abstract. So in that case, if I am trying to create the GUI, that is your containers, your components, everything, one platform, and then I am trying to use that in another platform, in that case the pixel size whatever that is accommodated for this particular platform may be fine. Whereas if it is being done on another platform, the pixel size based on that, if you display the components, that may not be properly displayed. So even another case, if my console, right, so it's not only related to your operating system. Again, if you change your console size, I have specified size and the location. If my monitor size is different, so few of the components that goes out of the display area, provided if your size of that particular monitor is less than what you have used already. So in that case also you will have problems with respect to the set size method and set location method that is available for all the components and your container. So layout managers are assigned to the container. So now what we do is, instead of directly giving size and then the location, so what we do is we try to assign a layout based on which your data need to be organized. So when a component is added to the container, its layout manager is consulted in order to determine the size and placement of the component. So now your layout manager is the component which is going to decide upon where your particular component need to be placed. So we don't use set size method, we don't use set location method, whereas we depend entirely on the layout that is fixed. So whenever I have a container and whenever I am trying to add the component on the container, so automatically the layout of that particular container is consulted. So based on the layout, the particular component will be placed on the particular container. So you can see here, if you use a layout manager, you can no longer change the size and location of the component through set size and set location method. So if you are using any particular layout manager, so again you cannot set the size and location. So once your layout is being set, in that case I cannot decide where my component could be. So control is not with respect to the coding that the user is trying to give. So the control is entirely based on the execution. So it will automatically see the container, it will see what is the layout that is set by the user, and the size and the location will be based on the layout that we do. So and how many number of components you add. So now we will have a short break and then we will continue with the layout manager in your next part. Welcome back. So we'll continue with layout managers and various type of layout managers. Each container has a default layout that determines the size and position of the components within the container. So in case of windows and frames, we have border layout, and in case of panels, we have flow layout. So layout manager, as I already told, I can set a specified layout. If I am not setting any particular layout to the container, so the container will be applied with the default layout that is for that particular container. So you can see that your windows and frame uses border layout, and then your panel uses flow layout. So in your previous session we have seen that we have a panel being created, that panel is added on the frame, and when I add the components in the panel, that gets added in the flow layout fashion. So now your layout manager governs how components are arranged inside a container object. The container method set layout allows the programmer to specify which layout manager is desired for a particular container object. So default, if I create a container and if I keep on adding the components without setting the layout, so I don't decide upon what layout manager, the default will be applied. In case I want a particular layout to be applied, so then I need to use set layout method. So that method will make that particular layout that you give as the parameter to be set to that particular container in which you are trying to set the layout. So the size of the container object should be set explicitly by the programmer as well. We can use pack to set size to accommodate preferred size of components. So the size of container object should be given by the user. Explicitly we can specify what is the size of the container that you need to use. I can say, for example, frame, I can say 300 by 300. So my frame size will be 300 by 300, and also even I can specify the location of my frame. And then if I have more number of components that need to be packed on a particular container, so then I can use pack method in order to pack the entire component. So there will not be any additional space that is available in that particular container. So it will be accommodated only with the necessary or required space. So if I have 5 components, my frame or my container will be packed with that 5 components. So layout managers have proved to be difficult and frustrating to deal with. So this is the reason. So why the layout manager can be removed from the container by invoking its set layout method with a null parameter. So I am following a particular layout. So whenever I go in for setting up a layout and adding the components, I don't have control over my size of the component and location of the component. So in that case, we get frustrated in order to use a particular layout. And if I want to use a combination of layouts, so in that case also I cannot specify provided I fix up a particular layout. So in that case what I can do is I can set my layout to be null, and if needed I can even give set size and location and locate my components as needed. So if I desire, I need not have any layout manager, layout being set to my particular container, even I can set it null at any point of time. So you can see here I have a panel, I am creating a panel and then setting the panel layout to be null. If I am not setting this to be null, it will follow the default layout. So what is the default layout of your panel? So we have seen that your flow layout is the default layout. So, automatically flow layout will be applied. In case if I set that specifically to be null, so then I have to decide upon how my components need to be added. So, for each component I need to set the size and the location. Otherwise, your JRE does not know where that particular component need to be placed on that particular container. So, there are few types of layouts available. You can see inside your java.awt package, we have 5 layout manager classes. One is border layout. So, this border layout arranges components along the sides of the container and in the middle. So, this particular layout, border layout, it splits your page into various borders, left, your right, top, your bottom and then center. So, whenever I am trying to add the components, I can specify this component could be added in the left hand side of my particular container, right hand side of my particular container. It should be in the top position, it should be in the center, or it should be in the bottom. So, I can specify border layout provided I want to organize my contents based on the side in which that particular component need to be placed. Next is card layout. So, arrange components in cards. Only one card is visible at a time. So, I can have many number of cards and then I can visually see only one card at a time. So, you would have seen in your Turbo C editor all you have card type. So, you can see you can have many cards and then at one point of time I can see only one card object. Next is your flow layout. So, arranges the components in variable length rows. So, variable length in the sense it could be, it is not a fixed. I cannot say that these number of rows I have. So, this will be variable length rows. So, it means that the length of the row is organized based on how many number of components you add on that particular layout. So, next is your grid bag layout. So, this aligns the component horizontally and vertically. Components can be of different sizes. So, there is no particular number of rows and columns that is fixed in case of grid bag. So, I can accommodate in 2 columns I can accommodate one particular component. So, if I do not have any specific number of specific size, so in that case I can go in for using grid bag layout. So, as we have an option called span in your HTML page. So, I can use 2 columns to accommodate one component, and in the other next row I can have 2 different components for that particular 2 columns. So, here you can also see that you also have grid layout, whereas here you can arrange only components in fixed length rows and columns. So, I have to fix up my number of rows and number of columns in case of my grid layout, whereas in case of my grid bag layout what I can do is I can span my particular component to 2 rows, 2 columns in whichever fashion I like. So, first we will see what is flow layout. So, flow layout manager can handle any number of components. We do not have any restriction with respect to the number of components. So, the components are laid outside by from left to right. When no more components will fit in the row, flow layout starts the new row. My components gets added up, and once I come to the end of the particular row, that is size of the frame. So, my size of the frame will decide upon how many number of components I can add. So, once it comes to the end, automatically I can come to the next row. Whenever I add an element, it comes to the second row. Suppose that a frame containing 7 buttons uses flow layout as its layout manager. The number of buttons that can be squeezed into the row depends on how wide the frame is. As I told you, you can see here, if my frame is of this size, so if I add my buttons, my first button I add, second button, third button I add, after that I do not have any space in the frame. So, automatically that gets added up in the next row. Whereas, you can see here my frame width is more here. So, in that case 1, 2, 3 gets added up, 4 gets added up, and 5 I am not able to accommodate in that particular row, it comes to the next row. So, this purely depends on the size of the frame or container. You cannot say that even a frame, even it could be a container. So, even if I can load the components on the panel also. So, the simplest way to use flow layout is to call no argument constructor and pass the resulting object to set layout. So, I create a flow layout without any arguments and then pass it on as a parameter to set layout. So this set method may be available in any of the containers. By default, components will be separated by 5 pixels of space and centered in each row. So automatically whenever I try to add the components, it will take 5 pixels of space and put the next component. So the alignment can be specified explicitly by passing flow layout.left, flow layout.right or center. So it means that you have seen that in that frame, if I want to organize the components, so in case if I have extra space, but even though I cannot add another component inside that, in that case this alignment works, how to align that particular components in that particular row. So the horizontal and vertical gaps between the components can also be passed. So here I pass only the alignment, what I can do, and whereas here even I can pass what should be the horizontal and vertical gap that should be available between the components. So vertical gap as well as my horizontal, from one row to another row and one column to another column, how many space I need to give. So that also I can specify using this constructor. So next is about grid layout. So grid layout, as I told you, I have to fix up how many number of rows and how many number of columns. So grid layout manager places components in rows with each row except possibly the last having an equal number of components. So I can have n by n or m by n, you can say how many number of rows and how many number of columns at the last row. So your elements, whenever you add the elements, if you have some of the columns that is left out, we never worry about that, and then that will be left blank. You can see here, whenever I resize the particular component, automatically the grid also gets resized, whereas you cannot change the number of elements, whereas in case of your flow layout, the number of components get increased, whereas here only the component size gets increased, but you don't have any components to be added on a particular row, because the number of rows and number of columns are fixed here in case of your grid layout. So in case of your grid layout, constructor requires number of rows and columns, set layout method, I am setting a number of rows and number of columns, I am constructing a component of grid layout and then passing this as a parameter to set layout method. So component will be arranged in 4 rows and 5 columns with no space between the components. Here in the constructor, I have not specified any horizontal space or vertical space. If I want, just I can specify that also. So you can see here, if space is desired between the components, two more arguments, the horizontal gap and the vertical gap are supplied to the constructor. So you can see that this is the horizontal gap and this is the vertical gap that should be available between the components. So based on this, the size of the components gets changed. So grid layout works best when all components in the container are of same kind. So all buttons, because it forces the components to be of same size. If the container contains a mixture of components, some components may end up appearing too large while the others look too small. So normally grid layout is used when you use the same set of components to be placed in form of rows and columns, because one particular component may have a look and feel provided if it has a particular size. So if I have buttons, all the buttons, so then it's easy for me to possibly construct a grid. So in that case, I can go in for grid layout. If my components are of different types, so then I can just have 2 different containers. In one container, I mean 2 different, even think that I have a frame, on the frame I can place 2 panels. One panel may have a list of buttons, another panel may have a text box or so on. So in that case, I can use grid layout, but I have to use one more layer. So my frame, on the frame I can place panel, even on the frame I can load the panel based on a particular layout. So as a summary, we have seen about menus. Why do we going for layout? What is the reason for you going for layout? And then we have seen what is a layout manager, and we have seen about how to organize your components in flow layout as well as in your grid layout. So from this session, you will be able to answer questions such as how are menu items added onto the frame, why do we need layout, list down the types of layouts, which is the default layout of windows and frames. So even if you can have how your desired layouts could be set. So and also how to construct a grid layout. So in your forthcoming session, we will be anyway having a look on grid bag layout, So as I already told you, what is the difference between your grid layout and grid bag layout. So you can have your you can span your components based on, here in grid layout I told you that whenever you are going to use the grid layout, you have to use, if at all your all the components are of same type. If it is of different type, so one will have a higher length and another will have a higher size. So in that case I can better go in for grid bag layout. So in your next session we will be having a look on how to organize contents on the grid bag layout, and then we will continue with the events and all the listener classes and so on. Thank you.